Today we're starting a series for HVAC vacuum. Today is going to be part one, the oil. It's a major overlooked part of our system and how that affects a vacuum. Every manufacturer recommends changing the vacuum pump oil after every use. Great high quality pump. It's going to last us a long time if we take good care of it. Now, as we're pulling a vacuum in a system, one of the biggest things we're doing is decontaminating that. We're dehumidifying that. So all that moisture, all the contaminants of that system is going to be coming through our pump. So our pump is going to be made of steel components inside. As we pull that moisture through there, it's mixing with that oil, and that moisture, if we leave it there, will start eating away at our metal parts of our pump. This is an aluminum housing of a pump, and if we look inside in this aluminum housing, we're going to see that there's rust embedded in this aluminum housing. Well, we know that rust didn't come from the aluminum. That rust came from our pump. So as we're pulling a vacuum, all those contaminants, all that moisture ends up mixed with our oil. When the oil is fresh, all that's mixed together, it's also warm. And if I drain the oil while that oil is still warm, all those contaminants, or most of those contaminants, are going to drain out together, and I can put the fresh oil in, and it's going to prevent our pump from deteriorating, which is great. On the other hand, if I leave it there, all those contaminants are going to start eating away at the pump. It's going to start creating rust. All that rust is going to build up. All those contaminants are going to settle in the bottom of this. If we notice, most of the pumps, most of the manufacturers put their sight glass at the very top of the pump. You're not seeing the contaminants. So once you shut the pump off, eventually some of that moisture settles out, sits down here towards the bottom, eating away at your pump, causing big issues. So we look at the top of it, we see, oh, well, it looks clean and clear at the top, but we're not seeing all those contaminants at the bottom. So for the sake of your pump alone, it's very important to change the vacuum pump oil after every use. But an overlooked part of the vacuum pump is the oil and its seal. On a rotary vane vacuum pump, we have this vane, and as this rotates, centrifugal force keeps it pushed against the outside edge. The oil creates the seal between the vane and this outside housing. And the oil is a key part of making that happen. Once we get moisture in that system, the molecules start to mix with that oil and it breaks that seal. So as that seal is broken, we're bleeding the high pressure back to this lower pressure side, and we're not pulling an effective vacuum. We're basically spinning our wheels. We're not being productive at our pump, so we're not going to be pulling as fast through our system. Here we've cut open a rotary vane vacuum pump so you can see how that works. And as I rotate this, you can see how the vane makes contact with this outside housing. So it needs to be lubricated, but it's also very important that we seal this properly, all of these moving parts, so that we can effectively pull a good vacuum. And the oil is key to making it happen. Moisture, air, other contaminants get in there and it starts breaking that seal, and it makes our vacuum pump less effective. We also know that the quality of that oil is going to make a big difference. Got two different brands of oil here. This one's a synthetic oil. You can see that it's clear. You can see right through it. It's a high quality oil. I have another brand of oil here. If you can see, this one's quite yellowed. It's just a standard vacuum pump oil. It's better than nothing, keeping it replaced, but there are going to be a difference in quality between the oil, between how they're manufactured, about creating that seal. Some of the vacuum pumps require a certain type of oil. Some require a synthetic oil so that they can get the ratings that they need. Some vacuum pumps go down to 25 microns, and they require an oil that can help get that 25 microns. If I put this oil in a pump that requires synthetic, we could end up with an issue. On top of that, as we're pulling the vacuum, we know that most of the moisture that we're pulling out of that unit is going to happen in the first 15 minutes of use. So as we're pulling moisture out of that system, that moisture is mixing with the oil. As that moisture mixes with the oil, it breaks the seal of our vacuum pump. So not only should we have to change our vacuum pump oil after every use, but many times it's important to change oil in the first 10 or 15 minutes of use. You'll see your microns start dropping, and sometimes they'll level off, and you can't get it any lower. A lot of times, that's an indication that you need to change your vacuum pump oil. You can put new oil in, and you'll see your microns start to drop again. JB recommends on their pumps to hook a micron gauge to the pump, and if you're pulling down to 50 microns on just the pump, then they say that the oil is okay. Other brands make oil in cartridges that you can quickly replace. This brand has it where you open the canister and you can change the oil on the fly. Some of the benefits to this is you can see the oil when it's contaminated. Your pump action is not sitting in that oil all the time, so you don't have to worry about those contaminants eating away the pump. You can also change this oil while it's operating. This brand has a really nice oil change oil canister you can put underneath it. Works great for changing oil. You shut the valves off, you drain the oil, put new oil in, start the pump back up, open your valves back, and you're back in business. This one here is you're able to change it on the fly while it's running. Both are great pumps. This one's taking the time factor and the visual side into it. This other pump works great as well, and there's many brands similar to this one. It's just very, very important that you keep that vacuum pump oil changed, and you also change it when needed. Maybe that's in the first 15 minutes of use. Maybe you can pull an entire vacuum with it, but changing the oil is key for that seal and also to make sure your vacuum pump lasts a long time. Hope this helps. Stay tuned back for more parts of this section. Thank you.